Part 5, Section 2, Chapter 25 of Short History of the Christian Church by John Fletcher Hurst. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 25, Philanthropy and Christian Union. Philanthropy is a characteristic of present-day Christianity. The effort is made to realize in the life of the Church the healing mission of Christ. That spirit more and more pervades the Church. Sometimes this appears in corporate action, and often in individual consecration. Wealth is poured out in abundance in the founding of institutions of healing and mercy. Men who make but little profession of Christianity are touched by the genius of the gospel, and vie with each other in providing for themselves a monument better far than sculptured stone or storied urn. But much yet remains to be done. This is a ripe field. Rich rewards await the reapers. No sooner had the close of the Civil War thrown upon the country the stupendous problem of fitting an enslaved race for freedom than the churches came forward to freely offer their help. Only 5 months after the beginning of the war, the American Missionary Association, Congregational, opened a school in Hampton, Virginia, for fugitive slaves. The spot overlooked the waters on which the first slave ship entered the American continent. This school was opened on September 17th, 1861. The association extended its work after the close of the war. It now supports some of the best institutions in the South, such as Berea College, Berea, Kentucky; Atlanta University; Fisk University, Nashville, Tennessee; and Straight University, New Orleans. A non-denominational Freedmen's Aid Society was organized in Boston, February 7th, 1862, another in New York a few days later, and others in Cincinnati, Chicago, and elsewhere. These societies were consolidated in 1866 under the name of the American Freedmen's Union Commission. The Baptists have pursued this work energetically, beginning as early as 1862 and supporting some of the finest schools in the South. The Free Baptists have Storer College at Harper's Ferry, Virginia. The Friends have not been neglectful of this work, though their object is rather to help the public school system than to establish schools of their own. The Methodist Episcopal Church established its Freedmen's Aid Society on August 6th, 1866, and has put money and men without stint into this field. The Presbyterians organized their work in 1865, as did also the Episcopalians. The method of all these and other societies is to unite religion and education. Education is interpreted liberally. It includes industrial, normal, biblical, classical, and professional departments. The Negro is found responsive to the touch of culture, and this work has revealed a beautiful heroism and self-sacrifice both on the part of the teachers in consecration to a noble work, and on the part of the pupils in their earnestness in seeking the advantages thus offered. 2 special benefactions to this field deserve mention. One is the gift of $3 million by George Peabody in 1866, and the other that of $1 million by John F. Slater of Norwich, Connecticut, in 1882. The treatment of the Indians by the United States is one of the darkest chapters in our national history. Mrs. Helen Hunt Jackson, who labored nobly in this cause, describes that whole history in one word: a century of dishonor. They were first robbed of their territories, then crowded into reservations, afterwards robbed of these, and all the time cheated, oppressed, and deceived. The only good Indian is a dead Indian is the unholy dictum which has governed a great deal of our action. A humaner policy has, however, not been wanting. The first instruction delivered to Virginia was, "to provide that the true word and service of God be preached, planted, and used, not only in the said colony, but also as much as might be among the savages bordering upon it, according to the rites and doctrines of the Church of England." The point made by Roger Williams, that the Indian was the real owner of the soil, was acknowledged by many of the early colonists. The seal of Massachusetts colony had as its device the figure of an Indian, with the Macedonian cry, "Come over and help us." But our coming has often been with no benevolent intentions. Recently a better spirit has been shown. The government is trying the work of civilization instead of extirpation, and with notable success. It supports many schools itself, besides aiding schools partially supported by missionary boards. The latter are called contract schools. For this class of work alone the government distributed, in 1890, $506,994, of which the Catholics received $356,491, the Presbyterians $47,650, the Congregational Society $16,408, and the remaining $86,455 was given to other church societies doing work among the Indians. The Indian Training School at Hampton, Virginia, has realized splendid results. Of the 250,000 Indians now in the United States, 96,000 are, wholly or in part, in citizens' dress, 22,000 can read, 29,000 can speak the English language, and 17,000 live in houses. In 1889, 300,000 acres of land were cultivated by the Indians. It seems evident, therefore, that the humaner policy has not been a failure. It is often asserted that the Indians are a doomed race, that they must eventually disappear from the earth. Whatever may be true of some tribes, it is a fact that there is an actual increase where tests have been applied. The Rev. Dr. J. P. Williamson, after a lifelong experience with the Dakotas, intimates that they have increased 60% in 40 years. The Rev. Dr. Stephen R. Riggs, after 40 years of service among the Sioux, in answer to the question, "Is the Indian dying out?" said, "No, sir, I do not think that the facts which are before us at all justify the belief that the Indians are necessarily a vanishing race." All the larger denominations support numerous hospitals, retreats, asylums, homes for the aged and infirm, and other institutions of mercy. The Roman Catholic Church has been prominent in this department of Christian activity, its numerous sisterhoods furnishing to its hand a body of workers adapted to the pursuits of charity. All the Protestant denominations have made notable advances within recent years, and have shown that they are not silent to the voice of distress. The work of Dorothea Lind Dix in improving the care of the insane is one of the most magnificent achievements of a century. What Howard did for prisons, Miss Dix has done for insane asylums. Her whole life was devoted to this cause, and through her efforts changes were introduced which tended to the permanent alleviation, if not cure, of the victims of insanity. Her work covered both continents. The life of this frail woman marked a new era in the history of human progress. It is impossible to do justice to the marvelous advance on all lines of social, industrial, and national enterprise due to the increasing Christian sentiment of the age. Societies for the prevention of cruelty to children, organizations which do the same work for animals, the disappearance of dueling from every English-speaking land, arbitration for the settlement of national disputes, more considerate laws in war, the treatment of both civil and military prisoners, the crusade against opium and spirituous liquors, these and other facts show the growing power of Christian light and love. There are clouds, however, yet in our sky. There are occasional ebullitions of the old savage barbarism. There are problems of the most serious and perplexing character, such as intemperance and the conflict of labor and capital, which face the present generation. But the progress in the past 50 years has been so gratifying that we cannot but look to the future with great hope. Christian union is one of the most beautiful phases of our American ecclesiastical life. It is only within recent years that fraternity has predominated over denominational differences. Theological controversies were so bitter, and men held to their convictions with such intense emphasis, that it was impossible for the churches to cooperate in the spirit of Christian love. The great revival of 1857 59 helped to dissolve these animosities. The Evangelical Alliance, founded in 1846, has been a powerful agency in bringing the churches into closer relationship. The Young Men's Christian Association, founded in London by George Williams, June 6, 1844, attracted a great number of young men of all denominations into Christian work, and furnished a broad platform on which all churches could stand for the furtherance of the Redeemer's kingdom. The growth of this non-sectarian organization has been one of the golden fruits of this era. There were, in 1891, 4,110 associations throughout the world, with 375,163 members, of which number 1,341 associations were in the United States and Canada, with 212,676 members. The Sanitary and Christian Commissions were voluntary associations for the care of the wounded and suffering during the Civil War. These also strengthened the sentiment of Christian union. The needs of the unevangelized masses, the folly of intruding denominational rivalries into small communities in our own land, and in mission fields already occupied, the helplessness of a divided church before any great and urgent call, the scandal to the Christian name of the spirit of division which has had free course in many parts of the country, the perpetual object lesson of the Roman Catholic Church in the massiveness and unity of its impression, these and other considerations have helped forward the conviction that the time has come when some kind of a bond or federal union or alliance, some method of realizing an interdenominational fellowship, is imperatively demanded. The noble work of that best of all non-sectarian organizations, the American Bible Society, formed in 1816 in New York, a society which for nearly a century has been the meeting ground of Christians of every name, has shown that such a communion of labor and counsel is entirely practicable. The growth of Christian union has been also helped by the formation of the Young People's Society of Christian Endeavor, organized in Portland, Maine, by the Rev. Francis E. Clark in 1881. The society emphasizes loyalty to one's own church as one of its cardinal principles. But it has interdenominational features which give it a unique and splendid advantage. This recent development of the Christian activity of America has had a marvelous growth in all evangelical denominations, and has contributed towards the realization of the sense of Christian brotherhood and of the oneness of all of Christ's followers. The Protestant Episcopal Church has the honor of being the first to institute proceedings looking towards the reunion of Protestantism. In its General Convention, held in Chicago in 1886, the House of Bishops submitted a plan by which it was thought the churches might take initial steps towards organic union. This basis was endorsed by the Convention, and it has been submitted to the other Christian churches for their action. It puts forward the Apostles' and the Nicene Creeds as an expression of doctrine, the Bible as the rule of faith, the sacraments of the Lord's Supper and baptism, and the historic episcopate. The overtures have received cordial welcome in many quarters, and in others only indifferent attention. The chief difficulty seems to be in the interpretation of the historic episcopate. The consummation of some form of tangible and visible Christian union is the great need of the modern church. But there is no likelihood that this fruition will ever be reached on the basis of any form of ecclesiastical polity. A declaration identical in terms with that of the House of Bishops of the Protestant Episcopal Church was set forth by the Conference of all the bishops throughout the world in fellowship with the Church of England, held at the Lambeth Conference, London, in the summer of 1888. But the almost unanimous report of the Committee on Christian Union, appointed by the chairman of this conference, the Archbishop of Canterbury, in which the acceptance of the historic episcopate was interpreted as not necessarily invalidating the ordinations of other churches, was voted down by a large majority, and even its publication suppressed. Chapter 26.